Hi, I'm Natalie Jill, fat loss expert turned lifestyle and high performance coach. Welcome to Listen Up, the podcast. On this podcast, I do what I do best, taking complicated information that is relevant to us now and breaking it down simply with actionable steps you can implement to level up your life. I also regularly interview some of the most inspiring and courageous men and women on the planet who, at their worst, learned how to achieve success greater than anything they ever dreamed possible, creating everything from nothing. If you are new here, I encourage you to go back and listen from episode 1, when this podcast was previously called Leveling Up, for the full transformative experience. Today on Listen Up, I've got my new friend, Tim Storey. He's an author, a speaker, a life coach. He's a wealth of knowledge. I've heard him speak before, and I had to know how he became who he is. He's impacted so many people so powerfully. Thank you so much for being here today, Tim.
Ladies and gentlemen, here he is.
Here he is. So Tim, how you do so many things now and you impact so many people so positively. I'm curious how this even started with you. Like, who were you as a kid? Did you know you would be the type of person impacting so many people on this level when growing up?
I think that, like any kid, like I had dreams of what I wanted to do. So I was always fascinated by art, animation, creativity. So I kind of I'm bent that way. And then I love sports. I was always a good athlete. So, when you're a kid, you hope maybe someday you'll be in the NBA or you'll play Major League Baseball. So I had all these little fantasies. But as I got a little older in life, I found that I always loved the underdog. Like if somebody was hurting or looked like they were in trouble, I was the kid at school that loved the underdog. And so that became my life, which is helping people.
Why do you think you love the underdog? Had something happen to you that made you empathize with that? Or what was drawing you towards that? It was just how you were raised? What was doing that for you?
I think it was two things. I think one is that I think all of us have some form of a calling. And I think the calling was calling me. And I think one way the calling calls you is, I say 3 ways: observation, what you see, conversation, what you talk about, and education. And the more I began to observe people hurting, I just started thinking, man, that's too bad that lady across the street walks that way. Like, I wonder if I could help her with her trash can. So I was like the little kid that was already observing hurting people. So I think now that was part of my calling me. And yeah, so I think that was really the main thing. And then also, I think that my family was lower income ourselves. So we needed to find a way up. And so it was my calling and my condition.
So it's interesting because I'm curious, first of all, how were your parents with that conversation? Like, did they also root for the underdog and encourage that type of thinking? And also, when you say you were lower income yourself, a lot of times when people are in lower income themselves, they can fall into that victim mentality where they're focused on what's wrong with them versus other people. So I'm curious about both of those things. Like, how did your parents speak into that? And what was your belief around that?
So the idea of lower income was, I think some things are just obvious. So when I was born in Compton, California, same as Dr. Dre, the Williams sisters from tennis, Kendrick Lamar. We put out a lot of good people out of Compton. But we had 7 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. So when you are crowded and cramped, it's obvious. And then even a few years down the line, when we moved out of that particular part of LA into another part of LA that was kind of at the same level, but maybe higher, we were driving a used Volkswagen Bug with 7 people in it, which is very illegal. So I think that it was just obvious that we were in a tough situation, but there was no complaining. My mother never complained. My father never complained. And we always saw that as a temporary situation.
So talk to me a little bit more about that, because I'm so curious about that mindset. What did your parents say about it? Was it an acknowledgement that we don't have and we're working on it? Or what was the story that they would create around it? I understand the not complaining, but what did they speak into that?
The way they spoke about it was not to avoid it, but to say that this is where we are now and we're moving. We're moving up. Your dad's getting more hours. I remember hearing this. Like, he worked at Bethlehem Steel, like a steel company. Your dad's getting more hours. I'm working more hours. So we're moving up. And I'll never forget what my mother said. So just so you know, my mother is Spanish. Like, her family hails from Spain, and her first language is Spanish. She speaks very broken English to this day. So my mother's name is Vicentita Gonzalez, okay? And so my mother in her broken English would say, we may be lower income, but we're not lower class, so clean those dishes. So our house was very together, very organized, very structured, even as we went from 2-bedroom apartment to 3-bedroom apartment. Then when we finally got a 3-bedroom home, it was like, whoa, like, luxury living.
What was your attitude as a kid? Because that's great that your parents were doing that. Did you have gratitude for what you had, or were you looking at how am I going to get out of this, or how will I create more?
I've always just been optimistic. I'm like to this day, I'm a man child. I'm very much a man and a leader of leaders, but I'm very much like a boy in my creativity, in the way I view life, in my sense of humor. So I was just flowing through it with my big afro, listening to Motown music, and knowing that I would someday be Tim Storey. I'll never forget, in 4th grade, a girl named Donna said, what do you want to be when you get older? Timmy, because I was Timmy Storey back then. And she said, Timmy, what do you want to be when you get older? I said, I want to be Tim Storey. So it's really the truth. I already had a mindset like I was going to do something.
What did that mean to you? That's interesting. Like, so you knew, but there was not another Tim Storey. Did you have somebody you looked up to, or you said, I want to be like, somebody now might say, I want to be like a Tony Robbins, or I want to be like an Oprah or whatever. Did you have that person, or you knew you were going to carve out your own thing?
No, I knew that. So there's a statement that we don't know who came up with this first. But it is, you've been born an original, don't die a copy.
Oh.
So it's either me or another guy, but I won't mention his name, who came up with that statement. But I will say this, that I've never tried to be anything else than what I am. I am stirred up by Richard Branson. I think what Elon Musk is doing is interesting. Jeff Bezos, what he's done is interesting. Tony Robbins, what he's done is interesting. But I've been very, very cool with being who I am. And part of that is my God belief that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So why do I want to be somebody else when God packaged me this way? So I was really this way since I was a kid. It's a strange kind of confidence that I was cool with just being me. It wasn't about being big or famous. It was about just being me.
Why do you think that's so hard for so many people?
Well, I think that, in fairness to the people, is that they don't really have affirmation, confirmation, and that their parents have not created the proper environment for them to feel free to be themselves. That instead, that a lot of parents have confined, defined what they want their kids to be. But my mother never did that, because my father ends up passing when I'm 10 in a car accident. So my mother never did that. So all of us are very organically different and all very creative, because there's 5 kids and I'm the youngest of the 5.
Wow. So when your father passed away in a car accident at age 10 and you 5 kids and your mom now, and you were already financially struggling, what did that create in your family? And did that shake up that attitude at all?
It 100% did, because what happened is the energy of the family left. The energy came from this very nice looking man who happened to be my dad as well. This guy was a very good looking guy. And he had charisma, and he came in the house with charisma. My mother was opposite. She's very beautiful, but she was tough, and she was all about directives. So we more longed for my dad to show up from work. So when that was taken out, I have a new book, as you know, called Miracle Mentality. Mm-hmm. I describe in that book that my house now felt like a cold garage. And if you've ever been in a cold garage, which you have, that's not a good place to sleep.
So I'm just trying to picture little Timmy. You're growing up so grounded with family that's obviously teaching you well. You've got great role models. You've got this optimism you said you're born with. You've got parents speaking this into you. You don't have any type of victim mentality around it. But then you've got this massive shakeup like that could have destroyed you and put you in a very different direction.
100%. So I love how you're taking this interview. So I call that a life interruption.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean?
So an interruption, if we were to break that down, it means a disturbance. Mm-hmm. It means an interference, but it also means an interception. So every person that's watching right now has been through a life interruption. It could be they were molested as a child. It could be their parents got divorced. It could be they found out they had asthma or lupus or a tumor, some kind of life interruption that you would never have ordered from life's menu.
Yeah.
So the life interruption, first one, because I've had many, at 10 was my father died. Like, wow, that's final. Like, he's not coming back. No, he's dead. So that was a new one. We'd never had that in our family where people had died. So now what do I do with this life interruption? So what most people do is they kind of sit in their setback and settle in their setback. And so, I was not that person. I thought that this is terrible. I'm now hearing my mother cry for the first time because I'd never heard my mother cry. You could hear her crying in her room because she didn't think we could hear. So my thought was, I've got to get that noise out of this house.
Wow. So
somehow I'm going to get the noise out of this house, that noise of my mother crying, grieving.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Because especially you've got other siblings, you've got a mom that's clearly sad. That's a big thing to step into as a 10-year-old.
Yeah. So it wasn't as though we had like family powwows, which I wish we would have. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like my older sister who's super smart, who's like 9 years older than me. She never got us all together and said, okay, so this is what we're dealing with now. So now mom's going to work from one shift at Winchell's Donut Shop to a shift and a half. There was no conversation. There was just people doing their own thing, but it's somehow working out. But there's a nice story behind the story. That the way my father was, his life was taken, a police officer, bless his heart, ran a red light and hit him with no siren or anything. And so the police department of that city sent one of the head guys and a priest to our house. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know why all that was going on. And so that was the beginning of the finding of what had really happened. This guy was not paying attention, runs a red light, hits this man and kills him. So now the city in which my father passed had to settle with us for a very large amount of money.
Wow. And
we didn't want to sue because of our faith background. So our pastor helped oversee the whole thing. So my mother had a secret, and her secret was, we have money, but you kids don't know about it. Wow. So we secretly, this is like a year later that the money came, moved to a better neighborhood. And when my sisters, who were smart, said, what happened? Mm-hmm. And then my mother said, your dad had better insurance than we thought. Mm-hmm. And then 3 years later, we moved into a really nice neighborhood. which was nice for us. Like,
Yeah.
Which would still be considered like upper middle income today. And she said, well, I made some moves on your dad's money from insurance, but that was part of it. But really, an inheritance came from the accident.
So interesting. And I can only imagine, I lost my dad when I was 22 years old. And we also had a lawsuit around that, and I remember having such mixed emotions around that, because being told that we won and we were right, or we were like, didn't bring back my dad. And it was such it felt so weird. So I can, on some level, understand that. It just felt
well, I think you really understand it. So to us, moving up, it was never like a pounding of the chest of look at us. It was more like, well, now we have more room, or hey, that's cool. Now we have more bathrooms. So it was like more room to be a family, more room to be creative. And Oprah has said this to me in private. She's like, you're just different, Tim, because you just have always had this mindset. Like, truly, for all we've been through, I just have always had this mindset that we were going to be okay.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued by that with you. That's what I'm digging and asking a million questions, because I'm so intrigued how one has that mindset from the get-go. I know a lot of people that develop that mindset and work years to stay in that mindset, but I'm so intrigued by how you just had it. And that's why all the questions, like, what did your parents say? And are your siblings like that? Do your siblings do that same thing?
I don't think to the same degree. I think that they have it in different ways, but I feel like I was downloaded an extra dose because of the calling on my life. I've been to 75 countries of the world and speaking to as high as 85,000 people at a time. At the age of 32, I was a big Nelson Mandela fan. And I remember speaking in South Africa to that night, it was 13,000 people, and Mandela's people coming to me in the back and saying that Nelson Mandela is here to watch you. He wants to watch you speak.
Wow.
And to get to a point where I became the youngest man to ever address Congress on spiritual issues, I was still in my 20s, and to do the things that I was able to do in life and still get to do, that I think that, God gave me an extra dose of what I have, not to like be just like successful, but to inspire and to lift people up and to mentor, tutor people and do what I'm doing today. So, yeah.
So as you started going through life, you had this since you were a child, obviously, how did you even break into this as your full calling? And I know that might sound like a weird question, but were you doing this with friends? Were you doing this with anyone you met? Like, how did this evolve into an actual career you're calling?
Yeah. So as you know, so I'm just going to tell you things you already know.
That's okay.
Some things you decide and some things you discover. So I think too many people, they falter because they think everything is just a decision. So like we ask an 18-year-old, what is your major now that you are at this particular college, like at USC? What is your major? What do you declare? Well, you know what? They may not really know, but the parent feels pressure that they got to put something on the paper, so the child does. So those are decisions. But I think that in interviewing the brightest minds in the world, which I get to do on a weekly basis, is that most of the people who have done amazing things, they didn't do it in the decision, they did it in the discovery.
This is a breakthrough for me right now as you're saying this, because I someone who speaks into deciding. I tell everyone that's the first step, the power of decision. You can always make a decision. You can always decide. So, and you're correct that I've seen that there's a discovery under that, but it's interesting what you just said, that if I'm hearing you correctly, sometimes it's not just a decision.
But your stance is correct for your first move. So what happens is you have the desire to do something. So you're in health and nutrition and many other things, okay? So you notice I didn't just box you in that. So you do a lot of things in life. So one first must have the desire, like, okay, I want to get in better shape. I want to be healthy. There's a desire. But then you have to have the decision. So this decision is right. Then you have to have the discipline. So that's you too. There's the discipline. But here's where people mess up. They just stop there. They're not open to the discovery of what can unfold. Like, for instance, so I work with entertainers for 30 something years now. So let's take Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
So Stevie Wonder says to me, the idea to play music was not just a decision. It was a discovery. He liked music, but he would drive by, his mother would be driving, and he was a little kid, and his neighbors had the garage door open and they had a neighborhood band. Okay. And he'd hear this music and he would say, Mama, take me to the music. Take me to the music. And she would always make excuses. Stevie, we're busy. So he had a walking stick, a cane. And he timed out from the car while he was driving how far he thought that house was. And thank goodness for him, he said it was only like 7 houses away. So he went by himself with a walking stick to find his life. He said, my heart helped me find my destiny. He discovered the music. And once he got around musical people, he realized who he was. So whether it's amazing actors that I mean, all these people, they tell me they discovered it.
That makes sense. And as you're saying that, it is clicking for me. And I think some people just don't even really understand that was the discovery. They look back and they think, oh, I just made a decision and I had the discipline, but they're forgetting that whole journey was the discovery, really.
Yes, 100%. And again, if we get so just decision minded, because you're in the mindset, I'm in the mindset. Because look, everything is a decision, right? We see a yellow light. Does that mean speed up or does that mean stop?
Slow down.
Depends on who you are. Okay. So if you go eat at a restaurant, they're going to bring a menu so you can make choices. So we're so into choices, which is true. And I have a saying that today's decisions are tomorrow's realities. So I'm all about choices. Today's decisions are tomorrow's realities. But in the midst of that, man, the miracle is in the discovery. I didn't try to become Tim Storey, life coach to the stars, ending up in Beverly Hills, helping these people for all these years. Come on, how do you go from what I came from to just deciding to do that? A lot of it's in the discovery.
I like that. I love that awareness right there. How did faith play a role? Because I know that your faith is so important to you now. Did you have that your whole life?
Yeah. So faith to me is not like we were in a weak place and I needed something. Faith to me was somebody introduced me to something that was cool. So it's almost like, if you talk to someone who's a good skateboarder and they say, yeah, when I was 7, Tony Hawk came to my school and I discovered skateboarding. So somebody took me to church when I was little. And then I was in Sunday school and the guys were nice. They told cool stories. There was a guy named Noah. There was a lady named Sarah. She did some cool things. Then you got some treats, and we'll see you next Sunday. I'll keep showing up. So yeah, I just got into it and I just started to see this idea of God and studying the Bible, and that if God was really my creator and all this stuff was really true, and if he really had a plan for my life, probably be smart to connect that way. So that was just a decision as a very young person that I just have maintained until the present day.
Has that played a significant role, do you believe, in the way that you are?
I think it's changed millions of people's lives because of the way I am. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it got me to places, faces, spaces that I could never have dreamt about. I get to influence these people that I influence today. I mean, I'm in 90 airports of the world right now. Like, you go to 90 airports all over the world. My face is everywhere. You know those big screens where they like show stuff?
Yeah.
I'm the first inspirational talker to ever be in all these airports.
It's amazing.
Through the pandemic, this company reached out to me. So we shot over 40 videos where I'm motivating, and then you could see the text, and I get blown away just by seeing this. I write for American Airlines Magazine every month, United Airlines Magazine every month. I'm in over 1 million hotel rooms around the world.
Wow.
Motivating people with text. Did I ever see all this happening? Absolutely not. So I think faith has played a big role in all that unfolding. Yeah.
I've heard this before, and I'm digging a little bit more here, where somebody will be on a self-discovery journey, or they're chasing the ego dream, like what they want to be or who they want to be. They chase this and they go down a whole personal development journey, and it's not until they get strong and comfortable with their faith, that things start to change with them.
Yes, I think so. Well, I think like it's so easy to try to discover yourself and try to figure out who you are. But if there's any truth to Bible, if you just take one verse, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, God, and he will direct your path. So to me, I go, okay. So that's what I thought when I was 15 and I heard that. Okay. So I was very good in sports, as I said, in high school. So I wanted to go to USC, and I had connections there because one of the greatest running backs of all time at USC is a family friend. So I was set, I want to go to USC and be a person who studied communications. But I started feeling this tug to help people's lives. And a girl from school named Kathy had been reading a book about the life of Mother Teresa. She asked me if I want to read it. I read this book. I'm a 17-year-old. And I go talk to some leaders at the school who really like me. And they're like, Tim, you should consider seminary. So it's like USC, seminary. I went to seminary to be a humanitarian. And then that's what I got to do. Yeah.
What do you think of people do you have an opinion, or what do you think when someone says, I'm on a self-discovery journey and they haven't found faith yet?
I'm good with them because I think that's what they know at that time. So maybe like their dad taught self-reliance, okay? Because, we're all a product of our environment, and we can change that, but it does definitely, make you go a certain way in life. And so I think that a lot of people that I life coach are very headstrong because they're very wealthy and powerful. And they'll say, I really love you, Tim Storey, but please don't talk to me about faith. That's not where I'm coming from. Because I have the biggest rappers in the world, et cetera, et cetera. And some don't want to go the way of faith. So I think they're doing the best for what they know. So I'm cool with all that.
And that doesn't get hard for you because it's a knowing that you have. I would imagine. I'm thinking if you know something to be your truth.
Yes.
And is that challenging for you?
I think it's challenging, but because I'm patient, that my thinking is that hopefully they'll get around more people that will show them what true faith really is. And that like a person like you, just by watching your Instagram stories and that, I could tell that you're a person of faith. You never said one thing about God. I could just sense it. Okay. So I think that when you're a person of faith, that you become a billboard for a better life. So there's a scripture in the Bible that says, those who look to God, their faces will be radiant. And I'm telling you that people that are connected to the things of God and the ways of God, even people that are helping on Skid Row or people that are doing acts of kindness, that doesn't mean they go to church every Sunday, but they're connected to God. There's a radiance to people.
It's interesting. I never knew this conversation was going to go in this direction, but now that I'm talking to you, I'm loving this. So for myself, I loved personal development for years. Was definitely on that search of personal development. And at almost 50 years old, being raised Jewish, I had never read the Bible. I think I read the Old Testament maybe when I was a kid in Sunday school a little bit. But it was interesting. My husband bought me a Bible this last year because he's on his path, and I started reading it, and I'd never touched it, almost 50 years old. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, everything in here I've heard in like a personal development twist, but it's all right here.
Yes.
And it's been such an awareness for me, that connection there. Yeah,
you're exactly right. And I'm excited about your husband's discovery and your discovery. And we're all on our own personal journey, right? But you're right. If you go back to like Think and Grow Rich, so much of that is the book of Proverbs. Okay. If you get into Norman Vincent Peale, if you get into Zig Ziglar, all these early thought leaders, even Wayne Dyer is taking so much from Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Marianne Williamson, all kinds of Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, because those are known as the wisdom books. So most self-help motivation books are coming out of this, including The Secret, the idea,
the law of attraction idea
of the law of attraction is a scripture. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And there's another scripture in the book of Romans chapter 4 that see those things that are not yet as though they are already. And then, that's what people are now calling the law of attraction. But
that's wild.
That's like 5,000 years ago that it was talked about.
And I don't think I would have grasped it had I not read it myself. Like I might have heard that, but until I actually would read things and go, oh my gosh, just speaking into vision or things that I had just been trained or learned over the years, it's right there.
Yeah. So I think that, everybody is hopefully doing their best. Right. But for me, what faith did is faith made my life make more sense. Faith took a lot of stress from my life because I really don't think it's all about my own ability. I don't try to beat the sun up. I'm not on my grind, but yet I run a lot of companies and do pretty well in life. So if you see me tomorrow, I'll be this calm. If you see me the next day, I'll be this calm. If somebody's suing me, I'll be this calm.
Wow.
And Tim, really not joking.
Did you ever have setbacks though where that wasn't the case?
No, gigantic setbacks. I mean, I was married to an amazing woman whose father is a huge Latin leader that was a person that was an advisor to both Bush presidents and has buildings named after him. So, I asked that man for his daughter's hand in marriage, and the marriage did not work. It was an 11-year marriage. Did I feel like a failure? Yes. Did I have shame? Yes. How long did that last? About 10 years, I punished myself. So yes, so I know what it's like to fail. I know what it's like to stumble. I know what it's like to grow up on stage since I was 20 years of age. I was speaking on gigantic platforms starting at age 20. So when you grow up on stage and you do it for so many years, people are going to watch you stumble. But I will say this, I would say most people have been extremely merciful to me, very gracious to me, even when I did stumble, because you reap what you sow. And I sow mercy, so I guess I get it back.
Did you ever, so it's, I want to connect the dots here a little bit though, because you're so living the work that you believe that your life has worked out and brought you joy, and you've met these amazing people, you've traveled, you've done all of these things. Did you ever find yourself being led by the ego though? Like chasing, like, I want to meet so-and-so, or I want to speak here. Were you ever driven by that? Or were you truly always just grounded in the work and things started happening?
No, but I was grounded by the work, but I slowly got caught up because what happened, it's just part of the world I was in. So in 1992, I started working in Beverly Hills with people like Vidal Sassoon. It was older, powerful men, Charlton Heston, Lee Iacocca, Tony Curtis, Jack Lemmon. You know, that's not common, right? Mm-hmm. So then in 1994, I put an office on Cannon Drive. And you got to understand, I'm very young.
Yeah.
In 1994, with an office in Cannon Drive.
Mm-hmm.
So then I am making a lot of money as a speaker, and I'm a writer, and I'm selling a lot of books. So, you know, I find myself now living in Beverly Hills, and then I find myself in a house that has 7 bathrooms and 3 fireplaces and an elevator. And I'm down the street from Ozzy Osbourne, around the corner is Christina Aguilera, around the corner is Ben Affleck. So does it go to your head? Probably. You're having somebody on Tuesdays come up and wash all your cars for you, and they're all nice cars. So my friends did not think I was slipping. Mm-hmm. They thought he's still down to earth. And I remember even like the UPS guy would come up to get in, my gates had to open.
Okay.
I mean, it's an amazing house that I had in Beverly Hills. And the UPS guy was a Hispanic guy that would come, and he'd go like, Mr. Storey, how are you so down to earth? Like, look what you have. But to be honest with you, I never really like stared at it like this again. It's just like, this is where I got to. But where I think the ego started to creep in is more of what people kept saying about me. Like, they just kept saying all these positive things about me, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have to be very, very careful of what you hear and how you take it in. Like, you're the best at this. No one's better. You are the best at this. And, you know, that's open to interpretation. I mean, do you like the Rolling Stones or do you like the Beatles? So I was the best to some and not the best to others. But I will say that, to quote an old rap song, there's been times I've had to check myself before I wreck myself.
Okay. And
because now I was single, and you have women that you see in the movies that now like me. That's weird. Mm-hmm. I'm doing my Beverly Hills meeting, and holy schmoly, it's her. And then she ends up liking me. Yeah, that's different. So, yeah. So I've had to learn, but I've had good counselors around me to help dialogue with me.
You mentioned earlier that you would be the same whether something got heated right now, you were being sued, like anything that happened, you would remain in this like neutral spot. How do you do that? I guess that's my simplified question. How do you do that?
It's straight up mindset. I remember I was speaking at this big convention, and somebody came and served me papers. Okay, so somebody was suing me. So if you have money, like you guys do, you guys have money, I have money. When you have money, someone might try to sue you for something you didn't do. So somebody was trying to sue me for something I was not even in the neighborhood. It had to do with some company. And so what took place is they found out where to find me, and that was at this convention. So a guy with a jacket on and a tie comes walking up while I'm speaking, and I'm being funny, and the place is animated, and he serves me, and he goes, "You've been served."
While you're speaking, unbelievable.
While I'm speaking. Wow. So I say this, I go like this, I go, whoa, thank you very much for doing your job. And the guy gets thrown off. And then I said, come here. And he didn't know what I'm going to do. And I straightened his tie because his tie was all off. I straightened his tie. And then I go, you guys give him a clap for doing his job. I said, seriously, I said, it couldn't have been easy to serve me in front of all these people. And everybody kept clapping. And how could I be that way? Because to me, I've been through so much conflict in my life of people dying and being raised where you could not afford Converse, so your mother bought you something else. You didn't have Levi's, so you got Levi's. Serve me the doggone papers. Whatever. Yeah.
Do you get that initial charge though before you think that way? Because everything you're saying, I'm like, that's amazing. I would like strive to want to be that way. And we've learned the tools like deep breath. It's all small stuff, all the things. But do you get ever an initial charge of shock? And then you have to talk yourself into that's who you are, and that's how you're going to respond.
I think depends on the weight of the life interruption. So if I read something, like I would sometimes get leaked to celebrities on TMZ or something, and they'll say like he's dating this person, and it just wasn't true, and that kind of thing could have actually caused me harm because I may be life coaching that person and not dating them, and so maybe it could have made me look bad. Or if you read something on the internet like Tim Storey is just in the money. He started as a humanitarian and now he loves running his multi-million-dollar businesses. That stuff is hurtful. So I'm human. So I read it and it's hurtful. And then it's a mindset. It's where I set my mind. I go back to my mindset. I go back to my spot. My mindset is a certain way of thinking. It's a disposition. It's a way of life. So I learned to stay steady in unsteady times. So I think that's how I think.
I think so many people would just strive to learn that, to be that. It's just so incredible that you've got that. And I'm imagining that ties into miracle mentality.
100%. And I think that, again, it's because my expectations are not unrealistic. Like it's people's thoughts of what I should do that I have to deflect, because like they'll say like, well, look what Tony Robbins is doing. Look at your gift. You could be doing exactly that. Okay, congratulations, Tony. That's his journey. Okay. And Gary V, I like you too. That's your journey. I'm real cool with my journey. I'm kind of enjoying my little journey I got going here. So I don't want what somebody else has. I don't want to do what someone else is doing. The way I measure success is not the way other people measure success. If I wanted a plane, I could buy a plane. I don't want to use that much fuel that way. If somebody thinks they need it that badly to burn all that fuel everywhere, then do it. A lot of my friends have planes. A lot of the ones I just mentioned, they have planes, and that's great. But that's not what I need. I'm still cool going commercial, and I even go on Southwest.
I want to ask you a little bit about this last year because everyone was so affected by it. It was so polarizing. People had such different opinions. Some people had major health scares. There's just so much that was wrapped into last year. And I saw people that I looked up to as calm and even keeled not being that.
Yes.
Getting fully triggered, falling off their rocker, taking a stance in a whole different direction, really showing a hateful side to them that I had never seen. I mean, I'm seeing people that for different reasons are just really hating on each other. I'm curious, how you navigated through that and what your perspective is around that and how you counseled and coached people through that.
Okay, in fairness to everybody, we've never had a pandemic like this. So we've never been hit, I'll call it the force of fierce. We've never been hit by the force of fierce like this. Okay, a mask. I'm quarantined. Can we find toilet paper? I mean, what? Like, it's coming at you from everywhere. Conspiracy theories. It could be the end of the world, right? Like, it's that far. Parents, you're a parent, having to now tutor their children, online classes, people with jobs that had to sometimes quit their jobs so they can school their 3 children that otherwise would not have been schooled properly. So these are the things that I'm dealing with as a person who is also a life coach to people. So in fairness to humanity, no wonder you were disturbed. Bam, the force of fierce hits you, okay? So what I do is I say that when you're hit by that force of fierce, there's ways to get out of it. You want to know a couple of my ways?
I would love to know a couple of your ways. Yeah.
Okay, so number one, you have to become awake. So you gotta go like this, like, okay, holy crap, we just got hit. It's like being in a car accident and it feels surreal. Like, did I just get hit from behind that hard? Like, am I okay? So we just got hit, pandemic. Number one, you got to become awake. So I'm awake. Secondly, you got to take inventory. Am I okay? Does my husband get to keep his job? Do I get to keep my job? Is my family going to be okay? So awake. Secondly, you take inventory. Thirdly, this is so important. You got to partner with the right people because then you'll get the right perspective. Oh, it's so good. See, if you go to the wrong people, they'll see the same problem through the wrong lens. But if you go to the right people with a miracle mentality, they'll see the same problem through the better lens.
That is the one that makes so much sense, but it's so challenging. So that third step, because one, how do you know what everyone thinks their perspective is the right perspective.
Yeah, so what I would look for in perspective is not like, should I vote for this person as president or that person as president, or should we kick this guy out as governor or whatever? I'm not saying on those type of topics. I'm looking for mindset in a person, okay, and where their spirit is. Because I believe that in the midst of anything we face, we can still have love, joy, peace, contentment, and goodness coming straight out of here. So the Bible says, guard your heart, for out of your heart comes all the issues of life. Very, very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
So when I talk to my kids, because I have 2 children that are older than yours, I said to them, now, we've been hit, but we're going to be good. Because the type of work I do, we're good. Okay? Now, but you should be careful about this. You should probably not go out into all these different places, and you should watch yourself in these certain areas. So I'm a leader. I'm the dad. So yeah. But part of my grounding is coming from a faith-based grounding that I feel like that God is in control. And that even if terrible things happen, which because I am an ordained minister as well, I had to do 2 of my great friends' funerals. I officiated them. And one of them is a famous guy who is in such great shape. He's ripped, shredded, multimillionaire, Rolls Royces, Lamborghini, and Ferrari, and still died of COVID. And I officiated the funeral with this disposition because I have realized that life is not just black and white. It's really damn gray.
I love that you're saying that. And it's not a normal conversation I've had recently. I wish more people would come at things this way. I feel that pretty much every conversation I've had in the last year and a half is a very black and white perspective.
Life is really damn gray. Like, why did your child have to get born with this situation that now you're always at, children's hospital in the middle of the night? I have friends like this. Why did your son get attacked in New York City when he just went there on vacation? Why do bad things happen to good people? We should question these things. Life sucks. Now what? See, stop it on, oh my God, like every day, I just like, my mind is like so feeling great. Bull crap. Get in the real world. There's a lot of things that suck in life, but life sucks. Now what? Okay. So the gray area hit me. How am I going to respond?
So good. Tim, I could listen to you all day.
Thank you.
This is, you bring such reason to things. I mean, that it's really as you're speaking, you really simplify things. I mean, you're bringing it back to basics truly. And
thank you.
It's just so apparent how grounded you are in this, because you just said literally the most reasonable thing I've heard the last year and a half. And I hope people really take that in, because life is gray. I like what you just said there.
Life is gray as hell. I mean, why did the guy cheat on the lady that just had his kid? But why did she cheat when he's busting his butt?
Yeah.
I life coach brilliant people who do stupid crap.
Yeah.
And then I see the repercussions, right? I mean, there's so many negative things that happen that we got to really stop the silliness of like, just avoid it, just clear the air. And if you want to do sage, that's up to you. Mm-hmm. If you go into a new hotel or whatever, I got a lot of friends, most of them female, that love to sage the hell out of everything. Okay, so fine. If that's working for you, fine. But you can't just sage away darkness from this world.
No, I learned last year, a big lesson for me was that we have to, I say, step into the darkness. We almost have to face the darkness, step into it to bring light. And I had
100%.
And I think that in the world of everything needs to be comfortable, people forget that we just want to seek comfort right away. But that's how we shed light on darkness.
But I like you, because even though you're funny, you have a very good sense of humor, and you're smart. You're a boss. Like you own who you are at this stage of your life. And one day we'll talk about how you got here. But
thank you.
But if you see, like, I own the heck out of who I am. Mm-hmm. I'm not intimidated by anybody. Really, I'm not. So when I speak, so-and-so can roll in the front row, and I honor that person. Mm-hmm. Like, I never say like, oh, they're just like us. No, he's got 21 Grammys. Okay, so no, I don't have 21 Grammys. So I honor people, but I own my piece of the puzzle. So all I am on this planet, I'm a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the whole damn puzzle. I'm a piece of the puzzle.
That's beautiful. Tim, thank you so much. How can people learn more from you? I know people are listening to this going, I need more. I want to learn more. I want to be in your world.
I think that people have to understand this about books, okay? Number one, I've already made a lot of money from my book. So when Oprah Winfrey pushes your books, they sell. So my last book, she put me on Super Soul Sunday, and then she aired that same show 17 times. Mm-hmm. That makes your book sell real well.
Yeah.
Does it make sense? So then you go to a company with the best agents, and they get you a really big book deal. So I've already made a lot of money from my book.
Okay.
So when I'm selling books now, it's not to make a lot of money from my book. I already made a lot of money from my book. The reason my book is doing so well is because it's apropos to today's world. It's called The Miracle Mentality. You cannot make it on this planet without a miracle mentality. This is essential reading. You shouldn't even go into next week without buying this book, because a miracle mentality is going to teach you how not to minimize yourself in the midst of a crisis. We minimize ourselves, minimize our dreams, minimize how we think, minimize how we respond to things. And I take you step by step through the miracle mentality in parenting, in your own personal life, in physical fitness, in mindset, your job, finances. And so get my book, Miracle Mentality. You can buy it right now on Amazon.
I love that. Everyone get his book, and I'll put that in the show link as well. Follow him on social media. Where do you live on social media? Where would you say you spend the majority of your time when you're there?
I like Instagram because I could be fun and funny, and I could do Insta stories.
Yeah, I love
Instagram. I'm really into my Insta stories. Yeah.
All right.
They let me be the creative person. But I'm loving what you're doing. So all the people that are watching me, that usually watch me, and are you getting connected to her, keep following her because your stuff is brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for doing what you're doing and helping people to shape up in all areas of their lives.
Thank you so much for doing this today. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen in as my guest today. If you found this episode valuable, please share it with friends and on social media. I don't advertise this show, so I rely on word of mouth and reviews to get it out in the world. The biggest thank you that you can give me is leaving me a review, and a nice one, I hope, by the way. This is how others find these episodes. If you do leave me a review, be sure to message me at support@nataliejillfitness.com with a screenshot of your review, because I would love to send you a free digital download of my DSR journal as a thank you. And please don't forget to connect with me on social media at Natalie Jill Fit on Instagram and Facebook.